Welcome to the Glitter Boom Girls Show. I'm Robbie-Ann Mcpherson. With me, 30,000 miles away across the country, is Amy Asbury. What's up, Amy?
How are you?
I'm groovy. How are you?
I am terrific.
Terrific. An antique word.
Right.
Let's bring it back.
We're bringing it back.
We're bringing it back. That and marvelous.
Mm-hmm.
Marvelous, darling. So let's jump right into it today. Today's nostalgia topic, because that's what we're all about, nostalgia. Just two female authors who like to, shoot the shit about days gone by. Yeah, reminiscing. We want to get into the after-school reruns on TV of yore. So
yes,
I'm a child of the 70s. Amy's a child of the 80s. So we got a lot to cover. First, I just want to paint a picture for people. See, when we do these podcasts, Amy and I can see each other on video. And Amy's background is this lovely, green office with a pink chair. And it's really cute. Yeah, it's like some rich lady's house. And my background is the Gilligan's Hut from Gilligan's Island.
How dare you shame me? All right, I'm going to get Jeannie's bottle. You just wait there. Jeannie's bottle is coming up. All right.
We are doing after school reruns today. So in celebration of
why did I not do? All right, so continue on.
And I'm not that classy. Look at you. You got peonies or something on a vase in the background. Who
that
do you
was
think
for
you
a
are?
Zoom call for the PTA. That's what that was. All right, you know what? You continue on, and Jeannie's bottle is coming straight up here in a minute. Yeah.
All right. So, when I was a kid, my earliest after-school rerun memories are from kindergarten. Believe it or not, I would get off the bus, and my mom used to volunteer. I think she volunteered at my school. She wasn't working at that point, but I was a latchkey kid then, and later became a latchkey kid through like divorce and whatever. But back then, my parents were still married. My brother wasn't born yet, and so I'd get off the bus and go to my neighbor's house. My neighbor was Scotty. He was a couple years older than I was. Scotty had the greatest toys. He had a whole playroom.
The neighbors always had better toys,
right?
No matter who they were.
Yeah, I mean, I had nice toys. I it's not that I went without, but Scotty had an entire playroom to himself upstairs in his house. He had the entire Star Trek action figure playset.
Wait, Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Trek.
Oh, wow.
The bridge and everything. He had the Evel Knievel motorcycle that you wound up and it like took off and then it hit something and it broke apart. He had the Bionic Man and every single accessory that came with it.
Wow.
Like everything. He had every game known to man, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Don't Break the Ice, Hungry Hungry Hippos. Like he had everything. So anyway, I would go to Scotty's house. I'd get off the bus and walk across the field. And his mom, she would give us each a little lunch bag pack of Fritos and a glass of Pepsi. And we would sit on the floor in the living room, and they had one of those big cabinet TVs, and we would watch The Courtship of Eddie's Father with Bill Bixby, and then we'd watch The Rifleman. And Green Acres was in there somewhere. So I think it was,
right.
If I remember correctly, I think it was Green Acres, and then The Courtship of Eddie's Father. Or wait, no, I'm sorry. It was The Courtship of Eddie's Father, Family Affair, and then The Rifleman.
You know how I feel about Family Affair.
Yeah, I know, right? And to this day, when I eat, and it's not very often I eat it for obvious reasons, but when I eat Fritos and drink an ice cold Pepsi, like I'm right back there, right back there.
Fritos.
Because
Wow.
it was so cozy, right? Like the after, because
Yes.
I hated school, and like you're done with school, and it's Buffalo, so it's usually winter and crap weather, but you're warm inside, and you're watching like these funny shows, and then the Rifleman was so dramatic, and you're eating snacks, and I loved Pepsi. I was such a sugarholic. So, and then Scotty and I would be playing with stuff, and I loved him. He was a great guy. So, after school reruns were a big part of my decompression from school. So, what about you, Aim? What's your earliest after school rerun memory?
I went straight to an orange beanbag. It was very sweaty, and some cereal, and straight to, well, you know what? Whatever they were showing was the only thing. We had 3 channels.
Mm-hmm.
So I was at the mercy of whatever was in syndication.
And this was
And
in the Valley, right? San
this
Fernando
was
Valley?
in San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
I started watching after school in 79, I think, 78, 79. So basically, whatever they showed, any show that had a kid on it, I would just watch. I was like, okay, there's a kid. So that at the time, it was, I think, KTLA Channel 5 in California, Little House on the Prairie.
Oh,
That
yeah.
was what I watched. That's what was on when I got home.
Mm-hmm.
So at first I thought, this looks dirty and dusty, and
Yeah.
this looks like cowboys. And I was like, fuck this. I
And
don't really want to watch this.
bad shit always happened.
But then I saw Nellie Olson's satin red ribbons, and I went, okay, there's color in the show. And somebody was wearing lavender, I think Mrs. Beadle, and I went, okay, I can watch this. You know what I mean? So
So
I watched it.
who on that show did you really identify with?
I mean, identify?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all identified with Half Pint.
Well, the show designed, because it's Laura Ingalls Wilder, right? Based on those books. But, it, you know, did you really identify with Half Pint? Because half the time I wanted to smack her upside the head. I didn't understand what the hell she was doing. But most of the time, I I don't know. I kind of identified with Mr. Olson, because he was just always kind of
Oh,
scratching his head, like, what the hell? And I just sort of felt like that way about all of Walnut Grove, like really. I mean, I didn't. I guess I never really identified with that show. I'm not sure why. Maybe it was, as you said, it was like the Dust Bowl thing.
it was the mid,
The
this, but
horses and the carriages, and
no, of course.
I needed like rock and roll, or I needed
I would
something
have
else.
preferred that, but I was really at the mercy of KTLA,
Yeah,
and that is what they showed us. So that's what I watched.
yeah.
But after that came something completely the opposite, which was Different Strokes.
Oh
And
yeah,
they were in a penthouse on Park Avenue with Mr. Drummond. So I was like, oh, where am I? What's going on? It was out of control.
yeah, yeah. Now that show, that was an interesting show. Like if you watch it now, you can't even believe it made the air.
The world don't move to the beat
Beat
of
just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some. A man is born. I could do the whole thing. Yeah, but it's so, like, nowadays. I mean, you think about the premise, and it's so unbelievably
It's
like
so
tone deaf and
bad.
racist.
So bad.
Like what? Like it's so escandaloso that a white man would adopt these two black boys. Like what? But you get where they're going with it, because every episode was about
Yeah.
teaching people to accept, the whole thing and all this.
Their
Like,
heart was in the right place. I'm going to choose to believe.
yeah, but still, now you watch it and it's dated. Let's say that it's very
It's
dated.
very dated. I
Yeah.
think if I could have chosen what to watch, if had I been in charge of programming, I would have put on Facts of Life, because I got to see all these girls with different hairstyles and barrettes.
Yeah.
I loved Facts of Life.
Yeah,
The
I
early
I
ones.
like Facts of Life too. Now, who did you identify with on Facts of Life? Which one of the five? The Facts Five.
Okay, so not Blair, because I did not think I was great. Joe was too angry for my liking. Natalie, I'm going to say Tootie? I don't know. I do know that in later seasons when they had that delicious store head over heels
Mm.
where they sold stickers and erasers and paper moon stationery and like mime masks.
After the
I
failure of
really,
the candy store
I
and the
really
bakery and
burned
like
down at them.
everything else,
I
the
really wanted to work
restaurant.
at that store.
Like Mrs. Garrett, just give it up.
Edna Garrett had problems. Well, that store came in and they all had mullets, and I wanted to work at that store. It
Um,
was delightful.
yeah, I loved that show. And I thought that was a great show for young girls because the the premise of it was a lot of the shows were about doing the right thing. You know, a lot of shows ended with somebody eating crow, which was a big theme in the 70s and 80s. Like everybody ate crow at some point. And but there was a lot of demonstration of the women showing strength, and there were I don't really remember guy centric episodes. Like I don't remember all the episodes being about, you know, oh, boyfriends and this and that. I just remember a lot of the girls' challenges being with family or homework or personal things. You know, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but
Yeah, you're right. That's exactly right.
yeah, and so for those reasons I thought it was a like a healthy kind of role model show, and they did represent um, different cross sections of people, and it's kind of cool to see the. I mean, I don't know. I don't think anybody that was on that show, none of the actresses went off the rails, did they?
No.
Like Blair, you know, she went on to do some successful Christian stuff, and I think Natalie continued her acting career. Um, Tootie was very successful, right? She was doing
Absolutely.
directing, and she was on the Real Housewives of
Living
Atlanta for a
Single. She was
season.
on Living Single for a
Yeah,
time
yeah,
in
Living
the 90s.
Single, right? Who are we forgetting? Who's who? Oh,
Joe.
Joe. Joe. Oh God,
Nancy
how could I forget
McKeon.
Joe? Nancy McKeon, very
Yeah.
successful. Yeah, yeah. So I think that show was I think it was a really positive contribution, I guess, in culture. You know, like you contrast that to some show that is all about, uh, you know, I mean, you know, we try to be positive on the Glitter Boom Girls. Like we really try to stay away from dissing things. But there's a particular show I'm thinking of that's a
What?
more
Just say it.
it's a more modern show, let's say. And all it was about was just women and wanting boyfriends, and all they talked about was men, and you know, how do
Oh,
we get men, and what do we do with the men we
so
have
great.
and the men we
Bored
lost,
with
and
it.
you know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to bring up the name because I don't want to diss anybody because it was a quality show, but um I thought that the fact that the facts of life was never about that was really cool for young women of my age. And also, since I never had a date, I related. I
How
totally
could you
related.
never have a date? I just
Never
don't
had a date. My
get
first
it.
date was my senior prom.
And then how did that happen? Did the person ask you or
Yeah, his name
okay,
is Marty, and
Marty?
he was the shout out. Hey Marty, was literally like the cutest boy in class, and he asked me to the prom, and I was so shocked. I right up until the prom, I don't know if he knows this actually, but right up until the prom, I thought that I was like going to get a bucket of pig's blood dumped on me. Like I didn't think it was real. I really didn't, because it was so weird that he asked me. But we had a nice time, and you know, it wasn't a love connection, but I was so nervous, and I don't think I was very good company. I don't know. I was
Oh,
awkward and weird, and I
that's
wore this short black dress, and everyone else looked like Little Bo Peep, and I don't know. I just as
oh.
usual, I didn't do it right.
I'm proud of you for going to your senior prom. I never even went to mine.
Stop.
I'd never been to any dances or anything like that.
Why?
I just was in a whole different scene. I was on the Sunset Strip. I was doing my own things. I was probably at some bar somewhere. I don't know.
So you went the wild child route.
Yes.
Like I was home watching, TV, drinking tea and stuff, and you were like partying with like heavy metal guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And look at here we are both, doing a podcast. Like
Here we are.
the circle of life. So wait, okay, so back to okay. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a break and then we will get back to our after school rerun discussion. This is the Glitter Boom Girls. You are listening to Amy and Robbie. We will be right back after this. You've heard about the rock stars on the Sunset Strip. What about the people around them? Read the Sunset Strip Diaries, a true story of the rise and fall of a young LA girl working her way through the in crowd of early 90s Hollywood. Author Amy Asbury describes digging her way through a dark home life, studying the cool rock chicks, and finally breaking into the scene among the glittered strippers, hot glam, rockers, and a backdrop of pure insanity. The Sunset Strip Diary. On Kindle, Nook, and paperback on Amazon and BarnesandNoble.com. And we're back, everybody. I'm Robbie-Ann Mcpherson, and I'm here with Amy Asbury. Say hey, Amy.
Hi, guys.
We're talking today, as we always do, about nostalgia. Today's topic is after-school reruns and the joy they brought you when you came home. I'm the child of the 70s. Amy's the child of the 80s. So, so far, we've covered some real vintage stuff. Courtship of Eddie's Father, The Rifleman, Little House on the Prairie. I want to get into some special works here. I want to get into the black and whites. I want to talk about the Munsters. I want to talk about the Addams Family. I want to talk about the first season of Bewitched.
Okay.
All black and whites.
Yes.
How do you feel about black and whites? Cozy or what? Boring? How do you feel?
At first, it's jarring. And I think I cannot do this. But if I leave it on for a minute, the combination of the music and the laugh track and the song, the theme song, it starts stirring me back up to where I can enjoy it again. I did watch the first season of Bewitched just recently where there was a brunette woman hitting on Darrin, and Samantha made some spell happen where the woman's hairpiece flew off and her dress flew off at the dinner party. And I thought, scandal. I was very proud of her, and I really liked it.
Escandaloso. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, Bewitched. I always had a terrible problem with the premise because when we talk about who you identify with on a given show, I bet you can guess in 2 seconds who I identified with on that show.
Darrin?
No.
Andorra?
No.
I identified
5
today
seconds.
with Andorra.
No, man,
Andorra.
her cousin, Serena.
Serena?
The party witch. I love Serena. I was like, I want her life.
So you identify with whose life you want, because you just got through saying you were surprised you got asked to the prom, so I was thinking cousin Clara? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. It's like, like if I identified with whose life I was, I would be Aunt Clara.
Sure. Cousin Clara. Yeah, I'm like, wait, Serena? That's opposite. Okay, so
I'd be bumbling up my spells every day.
I'd be Gladys Kravitz, if we were doing this today. Serena,
Serena, she's like partying with Ben Franklin and then,
right.
hanging out with like Genghis Khan
fabulous.
Or something. Like,
yes.
She's just living this crazy wild ass life. And then, remember when she brought the guitar,
of course.
She's singing that little song, like with the dark wig. I loved it. So I had a lot of appreciation for the comedy because the comedy in the show was pretty good. Paul Lynde and Elizabeth Montgomery was she was fantastic. Agnes Moorehead, forget it.
Oh,
right. Samantha, like she was so great. And then the two Darrins. Everyone prefers the original Darrin. We all know that. But
Okay, so is the original Darrin, okay, one had a giant forehead and one had giant eyes.
the giant eyes Darrin was the original Darrin
Okay.
who also returned later. So he was the
Okay.
original Darrin and then the third Darrin, if you will.
Okay.
Then the second Darrin in the middle, who wasn't a bad Darrin. He just wasn't the Darrin everybody preferred, you know. But everyone loves the first Darrin, Dick York, because he had that Sam, he would say Sam, and then I think that was the issue. The middle Darrin, when he said Sam, it didn't
connect.
Yeah, it wasn't iconic. But the original Darrin, Sam, and he had the best Sam. But the premise of it, where she has this gift, like if you think about it, here's this woman who's beautiful and she has this spectacular gift. She's a witch, for God's sake, right? Like she can do anything she wants. And she's like, no, I just want to stay home and clean the house. And I don't even want to use my witchcraft to do that. I want to clean the house by myself with a rag and some soap. Like, that's all. And I just want to make dinner. I don't have any aspirations. I'm just going to take care of my husband. That's all.
Well, if you remember the very first episode, they show her dating Darrin. And they're going on picnics, and her mother's making fun of her. You're never going to be able to do this. You're a witch. This is not what we do. And she was like, Mother, stay out of it. And the mom kept popping into the honeymoon suite. And I think it was her rebelling against her mother, the whole entire thing. Even if she didn't want to do it, she was going to do it.
So then she just got stuck with it, and it was like, I can't go back now.
She got so sick of her mother butting in.
Yeah.
But yes.
That could be. That could be. I think we need to get Dr. Bombay in here and ask him.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Bombay, Dr. Bombay. I love Dr. Bombay. So my friend lived down the street from Dr. Bombay.
Oh.
Shout out to my friend Amy, not you, Amy, but my other friend Amy. And I remember she told me that one day when I was at her house, and it was all I could do not to be like, what? Which house? Like, I was so excited that she lived down the street from Dr. Bombay. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, the show was funny, and I like black and white movies. I like black and white TV. To me, it's a cozy feeling. Like when I can't sleep at night, if I have really bad insomnia, I get up, I make myself some warm milk with honey.
That's
and
lovely.
I leave all the lights off and I put on a black and white movie. And there's something about that, it's like a pacifier or something. So I don't mind the black and white. And the Addams Family, I think that show is one of the funniest shows on TV. I mean, that show is hilarious. Same with the Munsters. The Munsters are a much broader comedy, I mean, Fred Gwynn.
Darn.
When he would get frustrated with his fists, Lily,
Yes. That was so
the
cute.
show is so funny. And Grandpa, he's always got some shenanigans going on in the basement, blowing up in his lab. Like, it's just hilarious show.
It was. I loved them.
Yeah. And what better antidote? Like, I grew up in Buffalo. I know you grew up in a warm climate, but I grew up in a freezing tundra. So I would come home, and no matter what childhood home I lived in, because we moved a few times, there was always a long driveway I had to walk down in sub-zero weather. So I would get in the door freezing with like icicles hanging off my nose, and I would bundle up in a blanket with like a stack of Oreos and some hot chocolate and watch like 4 hours of television. So
wow.
Whatever the stack of reruns was, which was usually something like this: Brady Bunch,
of course,
Bewitched, and then you flip channels, Three's Company, Family Ties, something like that. And I would just sit there until dinner time, and then I'd eat dinner, and then after dinner, I'd watch, whatever the primetime show was, Remington Steele, WKRP in Cincinnati, whatever,
Yeah.
and watch TV until 10 o'clock. And if there was nothing on prime time that I wanted to see, I would go upstairs and listen to records. But I, my once I got past like 11 when my parents divorced, and I really was a latchkey kid. Um, the TV became my parent. Like that's why I always joke that I was
So
raised by a pack of wild TVs,
interesting.
because I never wanted the house to be silent.
I
And
agree.
yeah, right. Like
Well,
you
you
were a
feel like it's
latchkey
your
kid too, weren't
friends.
you?
I was not until I was a teenager. I had a pretty stable life until about 14. But we still came home and went straight to the TV. But honestly, when I was older and I was all alone, I had no family, turning on the Brady Bunch in the background, I felt like, okay, my family's here.
Yeah.
So psychologically, it just helped having those people because again, I feel like your brain thinks they're your family sometimes.
Yeah, they become it becomes a surrogate family, right? Because in my opinion, it gives you an opportunity to just kind of leave your world, which for whatever reason may not be so happy. And then you just sort of enter into the Brady house, right? And you're there
Yes.
with, I mean, even for those kids, like the actors, I'm sure the world wasn't that great, but
Yeah.
the show they created, it was this fake world. And you go into that world and everybody's cool and everything resolves at the end, and it's not like your own family where arguments last for a week, or where people are telling you you're not good enough, or where people are criticizing you, or who knows. And it becomes a respite, I guess is the word, right? And
Yes.
I agree, it definitely can feel like your own family. And music did the same thing. Like when um, anybody that knows me at all knows I'm a huge, huge Styx fanatic. And my Styx records they were like my family too. I would just barricade myself in my room and play my Styx records all night long, because the music is so positive and the message was very positive, like believe in yourself and it's going to be okay, and stuff like that. And I loved the music. So I think I found the same thing in all those reruns. And maybe that's why. You know what? I just had what they call in therapy a moment of clarity.
Okay.
I'm going to send you a copay. Maybe
Okay.
that's why I didn't really like Little House on the Prairie, because that was not a safe, happy place.
Anything could happen. Your house could burn down. I
Yeah.
mean,
It was like
yeah.
locusts, and, people died, and carpetbaggers, and all this awful stuff happened. And
That's why I preferred Family Affair, where I was in Uncle Bill's Park Avenue apartment. Yes.
yes, oh, Family
And
Fair. Let's talk about
Was
Family
like,
Fair.
Mr. French was there, and I was just, that was comforting. There's a doorman. No one could just come in.
Right?
In my head, I'm like, there's the doorman. Mr. French will answer the door, and Uncle Bill is there if anything happens. So I felt safe with Family Affair.
Yeah, and even though the premise of the show was kind of sad, right?
Sad. Mm-hmm.
But they were okay. It was like you're going to be rescued. You're safe.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
when you're alone, when you're a latchkey kid, when your parents are divorced, whatever happens in your childhood, if your life is somehow made unsafe or perceived to be unsafe. I mean, I wasn't literally unsafe, but the foundation's ripped away from you. Your parents split up. Like, it's so traumatic when you're a little kid, and
Certainly.
you watch this show where something bad happened to these little kids, but they're safe. And Mr. French, man, I mean, he took care of everything. Like, he
Took
made
care of
this beautiful world,
everything.
right? Like, he was a
Oh, he
butler.
knew all protocol. He knew everything proper to do. He knew everyone to call. He was divine.
Right. And didn't you want your own Mrs. Beasley,
Yes, of
the
course.
doll? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, they made Mrs. Beasley dolls, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I was a little too young. Like I think I just missed the Mrs. Beasley doll, or maybe I was the tail end of the Mrs. Beasley doll production by the time I was old enough to even want a Mrs. Beasley doll.
Yeah, I
Um,
think it actually the show ended in about 71. So maybe
yeah, that because that was an old show.
you were not digging it at that time, yeah. It was like 67 to 71, but I'm talking it reran, which is why we saw it. But yeah, feeling safe was a big part of those shows. And if they replayed or reshowed a set often enough, like the Brady Bunch, you start to feel like, okay, I know that room,
Right.
and you feel comfortable in that room.
Yeah, yeah.
So
One of the first
thinking
things I
about
did
that.
when I moved to LA was go find the Brady house.
Oh
And
yeah.
even though they didn't shoot any interiors in it, I I just had to find that house. And I remember driving by it and feeling it was indescribable. It was like an old childhood friend, or something like that.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
there is a Mrs. Beasley doll on eBay for $56.
That's actually a great price.
Right? I mean, she's
Yes.
not in the box, but she's in really good shape.
Well, I'm gonna have to check that out.
And she says the original beloved 11 phrases from Family Affair.
That
What,
is
what
very
were the
cute.
phrases? What were the phrases that she said? Do
Oh,
you
I
remember?
don't know. I don't remember her saying anything at all, but you know,
Huh.
who knows? But you know what? Speaking of the Brady house, I grew up in the valley where so many things were filmed that just watching old movies, I see my neighborhood a lot. Like
Yeah.
E.T., where the bikes were going off, that was around my neighborhood.
Wait a minute.
A
Hold,
lot
hold
of.
up, hold up.
Oh,
This
I'm sorry.
ad said, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's breaking news.
Okay.
This ad for this doll says, pull Mrs. Beasley's string and hear, well, I can't see this because I don't have my glasses on, and hear one of 11 different phrases, each characterized by actress Cheryl Ladd?
That's strange.
What?
I have no answer for that.
I have no answer for that either.
I think she owed her agent a favor, like many things that happened.
Was she the voice of the Mrs. Beasley doll, or is that.
No,
Can
it's
we get
probably
Cheryl
like,
Ladd on the phone?
yeah.
Can you imagine? She'd be like, who? Block that number. Mrs. Beasley doll featuring the voice of Cheryl Ladd. What? Who was the voice of Mrs. Beasley? It's Cheryl Ladd. Huh. Isn't that crazy?
It is.
I don't know. We have to research that. We'll look into that. We'll get back to you guys about that, or we'll tweet it, because I mean, this is shocking. This is an incredible development right now. This is breaking news. I'm shocked. Are you shocked? Oh, you froze, Amy.
I froze.
Oh yeah,
Okay,
you
here I am.
froze. Oh, you changed your background to Dynasty. The Carringtons
Yes.
are behind you.
I've got a few. So are you looking at me right now?
Oh yeah, so Amy's scrolling through her backgrounds, her Dynasty. You know what? It's interesting. Alice, Alice is in the Brady kitchen. Um, Dynasty. I guess you can't really put a soap on a rerun like that because they're sequential, so
No.
you can't really do that. But you, oh, you know what? We haven't covered though. We haven't covered the Jeffersons. We haven't covered because the Jeffersons is another good one. That one, my gosh, I
I
think,
watched that a lot.
yeah, me too. Oh my God, me too. I, for God's sake, I think I've seen every Jeffersons episode 25 times, and that was another funny show because Sherman Hemsley was hilarious, and so was Flo. Um, oh my God, her name just flew out of
Marla
my head.
Gibbs.
Oh, Marla Gibbs. Thank you very much. Yeah, That was really good writing, really funny show. I don't know, could that I think that show could pass today. Because the comedy was written in a certain way, you know?
I think so. It was well done. It was well done.
Yeah. Yeah, what about Sanford and Son? Could they do Sanford and Son today?
I never watched it. I
Oh,
don't
no,
know.
that was
Tell
a
me what
funny
you
show.
think.
I liked that show. Red Fox was a very, very talented and funny comedian, and the show, his interactions with the characters were just stellar. You know, he was such a cranky old man, right? And the humor, it was super funny, super funny. I don't know if they could do that again though today. You know, with the themes and with the sensitivities that people have now. I don't know if that show could pass. Or like Chico and the Man.
Oh, there's a lot that are. Ooh, yeah.
Right? Yeah. I mean, there was this whole slew, All in the Family, like in the 70s. There was this whole slew of shows that were just like pushing that envelope, right? And they were doing it on purpose. Yeah, Maude, right? Spinoff.
Yep. Yes.
Spinoff of All in the Family. Because she was their neighbor, supposedly. Yeah. So wait, the Jeffersons and Maude both spun off of All in the Family.
The Jeffersons did?
Yeah, the Jeffersons were their neighbor. Yeah.
I can't remember. I thought the Jeffersons were from something else. Well, you would know better than I.
No, the Jeffersons, because that was a big joke. Like with, the Jeffersons moved in next to Archie, and of course Archie had an issue with that. And
right.
Yeah, and then they involved the Jeffersons were recurring characters for a while, and that was the original Lionel. They had, because it was like the Darrins. There were two Lionels. And they got a different Lionel by the time the Jeffersons got their own show. Who, no offense to the first Lionel, but in my opinion, the second Lionel was better. He was funnier.
Ah.
Yeah, he was like a funnier actor. He just had a better, like the original Lionel was sort of bland. He was just sort of like, I don't know. But the second Lionel he just had better comedic timing, I think, maybe. Yeah, and then the Jeffersons, because that was the whole thing. They left Archie's neighborhood and they were moving on up, and then
they left Queens.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They moved to the east side, to a deluxe apartment in the sky. Ha ha.
We all know. Yes.
Yeah, and you know what? The lines of that fish don't burn in the kitchen, beans don't burn on the grill, took a whole lot of Turayan just to get up that hill. Now we're up in the big league.
Uh-huh.
It's our turn at bat. That's the line. Right? When I was little, I thought it was, guess I'll turn heads up.
Oh, I never knew. I had my own, no clue.
I never knew. So, AIM, we're out of time again. We always run out of time before we want to be out of time. Because, you know what? We can talk for hours.
We could.
But we want to thank everybody. Thank you for listening. Thanks for hanging with us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes. Don't we love our listeners? Don't we love hanging out with these people?
We so do. We so do. Yeah,
because they get us. Yeah, and we get them. Yeah, you're cutting out, AIM. So I don't know if you'll be able to join me in our goodbyes, but we want to thank everybody. I'm Robbie-Ann Mcpherson. I am an author. I wrote a novel called Taking Liberty. It's available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and Kindle. And Amy Asbury is also an author of several fantastic books. Confetti Quicksand and Sunset Strip Diaries and Once Upon a Time in the 80s, which if you are a nostalgia buff, you want to check that out. Oh yeah, I can hear you now.
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that book. So check out our Twitter feed, Glitter Boom Girls Show on Twitter. Hit us up in DM. And thanks for listening. We love you guys. We will see you next time.
Bye-bye.